Our friend Lindsey Graham in the middle of this hearing with the former Director of National Intelligence Clapper and Sally Yates, who used to be the acting Attorney General briefly before Jeff Sessions took over. They are now testifying before the Senate. We're keeping an eye on this. The media has been playing this as some sort of explosive information is going to come out today about General Mike Flynn, what the White House or the Department of Justice knew, when they knew it, the fact that Trump should have known better because they warned him. But we don't have any of that yet. At this point, every senator has gotten their 5 minutes of bloviating, and then they made opening statements, Clapper and Yates, but nothing of any real substance has come out of here. And I think the interesting story here today will be the fact that the Trump administration went to Sally Yates and said, some of what you're wanting to discuss, we're going to impose executive privilege. So some of it she's not going to be able to talk about. So as that develops this hour, because it's going on right now live, we'll let you know. If it comes out, anything new that's breaking, you're going to get it first right here. Glad you're back with us for this last hour of the Mark Cox Show today. Still plenty for us to get to. I'm going to remind you of our golf tournament we're doing that's coming up in about a month. Still time for you to take part in that. And, of course, we here at MS Radio are going to help our friends who've been affected by the flooding. We've got a fundraiser that's going on tomorrow. You can start donating today if you want. I'm going to give you details on that this hour as well, so please stick around. If you've noticed, one of the big stories that's sort of been pushed into the background because of hearings like the one that's going on today, the healthcare debate last week, some other issues, has been North Korea. We know that there's still a bit of a standoff. We know we have some warships off the coast. We know that the Kim Jong-un is constantly making threats of what he's going to do next with a nuclear weapon. Is the delivery of a nuclear weapon to the U.S. the biggest risk? Well, that's a really good question. Our guest right now is Dr. Peter Price, Executive Director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security and Director of the U.S. Nuclear Strategy Forum. Dr. Price, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I appreciate you giving us a little bit of time today. When I saw this story that came out with some quotes from you on the risk of an electromagnetic pulse attack on the United States, it caught my attention because I've been talking about this risk for years, and people never seem to have taken it very seriously after the original major report was issued on this after 9/11. It kind of got covered up, and the U.S. has just never really done much to harden itself against one of these attacks. What is the specific risk involving North Korea and an EMP?
Well, North Korea could deliver a nuclear weapon over the United States and launching a missile off a short-range missile off a freighter, or what's of immediate concern are the satellites. They have two satellites orbiting over the United States that almost never gets mentioned. They could have a nuclear weapon in one or both of those satellites, and they could do this high-altitude burst of a nuclear weapon, which will generate electromagnetic pulse, which is basically a super-energetic radio wave that would destroy electronics with a single weapon across the entire continental United States, black out the electric grid, and not just a temporary blackout. We're talking about a protracted blackout that could last months or be permanent. The commission, the EMP Commission, had warned, and it was brought back out by Congress in 2015, and is here today. It's still around today. I'm the chief of staff of that commission. We've been warning, trying to tell anyone who will listen, that 9 of 10 Americans could die from an EMP attack from North Korea. That's what could happen from starvation, disease, and societal collapse. Because we're an electronic civilization. We can't live without electricity. There'd be no food, no water. There'd be societal chaos, all kinds of industrial accidents, nuclear reactor meltdowns, and they could do this with a single weapon. So Kim Jong-un could actually literally deliver on his threats to turn the United States into ashes by making an EMP attack. And it's possible. We don't know whether there's a weapon on those satellites or not, but it's extremely suspicious. The trajectory is exactly the kind of trajectory you'd have if you were trying to set us up for a surprise EMP attack. because they orbit on what's called the south polar trajectory. They come up from the south and they pass over the Antarctica and then come up from the south. And we don't have any ballistic missile early warning radars or interceptors facing south. We're blind and defenseless from that direction. All of our plans in the Cold War today are oriented toward intercepting missiles that are either coming over the North Pole or from the Atlantic or Pacific coasts. So that's the threat. And this Saturday, they apparently practiced another variant of an EMP scenario. The missile that was launched on Saturday, a medium-range missile, was initially reported as a failure, but South Korean officials came out and said it wasn't a failure. They had detonated it deliberately at an altitude of 72 kilometers, which is the optimum altitude if you're doing an EMP attack over the Koreas, over the Korean Peninsula.
Wow. Is it a factual statement to say that an EMP event would be more disastrous and claim more lives than if they were able to deliver a single ICBM with a nuclear weapon to some point in the United States?
Yes, that is absolutely true. If they manage to deliver one of their nuclear warheads onto a city, we think their warheads are in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 kilotons, like the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombs. They would probably kill 200,000 people. But the rest of the country would be intact, and we could turn their whole nation into a plate of glass. But if they've got, and we fear they may well have, what's called a super EMP weapon, a design that was transferred to them by the Russians. This is a low-yield weapon. It's not designed to create a big explosion. It creates gamma rays, which is what makes the EMP effect. And most of the North Korean tests have been low-yield tests. The press has described them as failed tests because of their low yields. But those yields are consistent with what you would expect for a weapon designed for generating a super EMP effect. And if they had that and they blacked out the electric grid for a year, as I said, instead of losing 200,000 Americans to blast and thermal radiation, we could lose 90% of the country. 9 of 10 Americans would die from the indirect effects of the EMP by blacking out the power grid, denying people from food, water, no communications or transportation, nuclear reactor meltdowns. Immediately, just one event alone, a super EMP weapon would put every airliner that's up in the air at risk.
Sure.
There's 500,000 people at any given moment just flying through the skies of the United States. Many, if not all, of those planes could come crashing down. So that's 500,000 people dead right from in the first second of an EMP attack versus 200,000 dead from blasting a city.
We're talking to Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, who is the Chief of Staff for the Congressional EMP Commission. The reason I bring up the fact that I've talked about this before is one of the best books I've read in a long time was called 1 Second After by William Fortune. Even had the foreword in it was by Newt Gingrich. And reading that book kind of drove home to me the fact that if something like that happened in the United States, and people need to be aware of this, you're reducing us back to you're erasing hundreds of, or at least 100 years of technology in a split second. If you didn't have a car that was built before the 1960s, it's probably not. It's not going to start. I mean, it's going to wipe out every electric thing. Refrigeration, everything is going to go. People whose lives are who are maintained by medicine are going to die. That's where the high death rate comes from. And I just don't think people who haven't read a book like this or studied this understand what the full impact of something like this would be.
Yeah, Bill Fortune wrote that novel because he's friends with Newt Gingrich. And Gingrich was so concerned about the EMP threat and about the fact that the mainstream media wasn't covering it, and people weren't reading the EMP Commission reports, which admittedly are rather technical, that he wanted to translate it into something everybody could understand. And that's why Fortune wrote the novel. It was inspired by the work of the EMP Commission and by Speaker Gingrich's grave concern about this existential threat to America. It's a novel, but it describes the truth of what the aftermath of an EMP event would look like.
Yeah, very true. Now, if I remember correctly from past interviews I've done on this, Dr. Pry, under the Reagan administration, didn't they start a program to harden U.S. military facilities against something like this? But then it was never really funded or continued after that. So even the military is at risk, correct?
Well, until the EMP Commission delivered its reports, that's one of the good news stories. I don't think the military is as protected as it should be. They're still relying a lot on commercial off-the-shelf technology. But of all the institutions in the United States, the military is the best protected. Even the Obama administration, even though they didn't like to talk about EMP, in fact, they never talked about it publicly, but they have been spending money. They spent almost $1 billion to increase the EMP hardening of Cheyenne Mountain. And NORAD headquarters NORAD moved critical components from Peterson Air Force Base, which is not protected, back into Cheyenne Mountain. And other military commands have quietly moved themselves back into Cheyenne Mountain. Admiral William Gortney, who was then the commander of NORAD, said the reason for this was because of concerns over an EMP attack from North Korea. And so the military, but even though the military has done a lot of things and, has spent money on hardening strategic forces, in the view of the Commission, it isn't enough. Our general purpose forces are largely unhardened. Most of the hardening is just of the military, the strategic nuclear forces, and the command and control related to them. And that hardening may not be adequate. They're not hardened to a level that would withstand a super EMP warhead, which is what North Korea may well have.
That is some frightening information. Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, there is Executive Director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security and Chief of Staff of the Congressional EMP Commission. If any of my listeners want to research this a little more, find out more about the commission and what you've studied, is there an easy place for them to go to do that?
I have a book called Blackout Wars.
Okay.
That you can get that from Amazon.com. And it really explains not just what the EMP threat is, but it's really a handbook that could be used by the average American. People shouldn't wait on Washington to solve this problem. Individual states have decided to start trying to protect themselves. Maine, Texas, Virginia, Florida, all of them have launched initiatives. There's a bill right now in Texas being sponsored by Senator Bob Hall to try to protect the Texas electric grid, because people have gotten tired of waiting for the federal government, which for 8 years under the Obama administration has known about this threat but did nothing. And individual states have moved forward. So the book explains how you can do that in your state. If people just Google, EMP Commission, there's probably a lot of newspaper reports and things of that sort on it. I have a website, emptaskforce.org, that includes commission reports and the like.
Very good. Dr. Pry, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thank you, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. This is eye-opening that this is finally coming out, and I had no idea that some of the tests that North Korea had conducted happened to fall in line with the position above the Earth where they would have to detonate one of these weapons to cause an electromagnetic pulse attack. It would be devastating on the United States. If you haven't read 1 Second After, I highly recommend it. It's a fictional account of what would happen once one of these hit, and it is frightening. It's frightening. I'll take your phone calls, 314-969-9797, 866-455-9797. Much more to get to. We got our Twitter poll out. We'll talk about that coming up next. Stick around.
Hey, now, darling,
The Mark Cox Show on FM News Talk 97.1, 98.7, AM 1490, and 97.1talk.com.
Hey guys, Glover here. I have your last chance to win tickets to DGS VIP happening this Thursday at the Playhouse at Westport Plaza. Comedy, music, nudity. Listen to the show or go to 971talk.com to win tickets to my sold-out show.
Well, the maids will be coming to our house again soon, and I'm looking forward to that. I don't know about you, but I've been my allergies have been acting up something horrible the last couple of days, and that stuff gets into your house, whether you've had the windows open in the nice weather the last couple of days or it just gets tracked in on the floor. The pollen gets all over everything. It's one of the things that the maids will annihilate, so to speak, when they come into your home. Of course, they've got the fancy vacuum cleaners. They bring all of their own equipment. So the team of 4 arrives at your house. They walk in with their own cleaning equipment, their own vacuum cleaners, all of that stuff. That just, it's designed to eliminate pet dander and those allergens and those other things and the germs that if you've had a family member that's been sick, doorknobs and door handles and faucet handles, all of that stuff needs to be cleaned. They're so thorough, they even clean the hinges on the toilet seat. It's what they do. They're specially trained. They're well trained, and they give you a guarantee that they'll come back and fix it if you're unhappy for any reason. It's a 22-step healthy touch deep cleaning system that they have in place to clean areas that are often overlooked by other homeowners. So go to their website, see what they can do for you at maids.com, MAIDS.com, or call them at 1-800-THE-MAIDS.
Hi, Sean Vinson, President and CEO of Vinson Mortgage. You constantly hear mortgage companies advertising deceptive low interest rates with free this or free that, which is very misleading because nothing in this world is free. But that's not how we do business at Vinson Mortgage. The difference is we truly care. We look at your entire financial situation to find the best solution for you to save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars each and every month. We don't need to advertise a low deceptive rate because we already have the lowest interest rates and the best service. We have a loan program for just about everyone in every situation. And there's a reason our family's been in business for over 30 years, and it's simple. It's because we're here to save you money. If you're tired of the other guys screaming misleading low rates, call the name you know and trust, Vinson Mortgage, for an honest rate. 314-839-9999. That's 839-9999. Or chat online at vincentmortgage.com. NMLS number 225095, 12801 Flushing Meadows Drive, St. Louis, Missouri, 63131.
Kubota's Orange Opportunity Sales Event is going on now. Take on all kinds of jobs around your property with a Kubota BX Series subcompact tractor. The Kubota BX is gentle on turf, but has the power and versatility to handle a wide range of garden and yard chores. Now get financing as low as 0% APR for up to 84 months. Now through May 31st, 2017. Call toll-free 1-800-794-4992 for details about cost and terms.
Visit MissouriKubotaDealers.com or IllinoisKubotaDealers.com.
Are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? Lion's Drug now has sildenafil, the same active ingredient in Viagra for less than $2 per tablet, a savings of over $40 per dose. Lion's Drug is a family-owned pharmacy in Lone Oak, Arkansas that offers low-cost generics as well as free shipping anywhere in Missouri, Illinois, and Arkansas.